Hey, everybody. Bishop Lisa, we are here. It is Wednesday evening, so you know what time it is. It is time for Pastor's Power Session, and it is Men's Month. So we're having a very special Men's Month conversation. The Kingsmen are rising, and I'm excited to have a real Kingsman in the studio with us tonight. So, ladies, go grab your husbands, your sons, your brothers, your uncles, your male cousins. Grab daddy, granddaddy, goddaddy. Grab all of the brothers
Everybody.
tonight. And y'all go, ladies, y'all go do your hair, nails, or something. Because this conversation is really for the men tonight. We're talking about men's health, men's mental health, physical health. We're talking about the state of our Black men right now, and we're having an empowering conversation. I want y'all to like, share, call somebody, text somebody, send them the link right now. They don't want to miss a moment of this conversation. I'm trying to give y'all a minute to get into the room. Put in the chat who you are, where you are. If you're driving, keep both hands on the wheel, use your microphone, and just talk. But we want all of the brothers to get a piece of this conversation tonight. I believe it's going to be shifting, it's going to be liberating, it's going to be delivering, it's going to be life changing. And so let me introduce now our guest. You have seen him with his bass, you've heard him on his instruments, but you may not have heard his voice. So often we don't realize all the gift that somebody is because we don't unwrap, but he is actually the COO of For My Kids. He has been deep in the trenches, right in the 21217, where New Bethlehem is located, right in the Sandtown Winchester community, empowering young men. And he's been at this for years. We all know he's the founder and CEO of Noisy Minds LLC, providing entertainment and just being a blessing to so many, not just church events, but just events all over the nation. And so we are delighted to have none other than Brother Jamil Boone in the studio tonight. Y'all put some praise hands up, say welcome, Brother Jamil, and we are ready to dive in. Good evening, Jamil.
Hello, how you doing, Pastor? It's an honor and a privilege. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a delight to sit with you. We tried to do this last year. And so when this year rolled around, I said, we're going to do it right this time. So we are
Awesome.
recorded and it's going to be available because these are the conversations that we really need to have. And I remember when we started talking about issues concerning Black men, especially, and some of the things you were saying, like I was saying, women, we are nagging our men and trying to push them, and why is it so hard? And then, do the men talk to each other about such things? And the revelations were just startling about how to strategize and why things are the way they are. Because I say this all the time, women can be in the room together for like 10 minutes and we know all of each other's whole medical history. We done
Right.
prayed for each other and know all the body parts that have been
Not
ailing and
us. Not
removed, and
us.
not men. So this is so crucial. So thank you for coming in and being transparent. This is such a powerful month for the men of the MBBC. The theme, the Kingsmen are rising. And I just celebrate and honor our Black men and those who are leading in the house of God, leading in the kingdom. When we talk about being a kingsman, then what would you say that really means?
That's a good question. I think initially the first thing that comes to me is just being set apart. I think when you're considered being a kingsman and being set apart, you're held to a high standard. The norm is unacceptable. You're definitely held at a higher standard. The level of accountability is different. The level of commitment and sacrifice is different. So just being a kingsman overall is also belonging um, to a group of individuals for the right reason. Of course, us as men, growing up, we've been in different situations. We've hung around different crowds of people, been doing things in places that we shouldn't be or should be doing that weren't positive. Of course, that's part of the process and the maturation process of us as young men to growing up as being older men and then being transitioned into the church as being now Kingsmen. I think just belonging for the right reason and the level of accountability and commitment and things that nature of that nature that come with it.
which is a daunting reality to face. Then I would think that
For
that's
sure. Yes.
the pressure of the expectations, I'm sure, is overwhelming. And so, as you work closely with men and especially with young men, like what do you see as the challenges that they're wrestling with? The mental challenges, physical challenges, spiritual challenges, that are preventing a lot from rising up the
Mm.
way they probably know they should. But it's intimidating. It's a challenge.
Yeah, for sure. I think the word that you said right there is intimidating is a big factor. We live in a world now where women, I'm not going to say are the new man, but they operate as such. Women are CEOs. Women have financial stability. They can do a lot. And I think for a man who's not there or struggling to get there, it can be a very intimidating thing. And just in that point, just being the man or being the man is just it's a very weighted task. It comes with a lot of responsibility. It comes with a lot of answers. It comes with a lot of problem solving. It comes with a lot of always being there, showing up. It's a very weighted responsibility that we deal with. Like I said again, finances play a major role in being a man. Being able to provide, being able to make sure that you can give and be there, and make sure that your family is fed, the bills are taken care of. The graduations, the just the different things, the sports, the registrations. Like I can speak personally for me. Like my son plays AAU basketball, and if I didn't make at least a few dollars, I wouldn't be able to see him play because it's $50 to get in just to see him play a 8-year-old play a basketball game, and then my wife has to come and holler and scream and act a fool on the sideline, so I have to pay for her to come too. So just the finances. Um, I also think that when you are the man, it comes with a lot of different challenges and obstacles and temptations. That's where being a Kingsman, I think you have to make sure that you're grounded, understand what you're called to do, understand that it's going to be a lot of distractions. Obstacles are actually important because I think they actually give you pop quizzes to see if you really have come as far that you think you have come,
Mm.
or if you're as ready as you think you are. So I think that as being a king's men, we should always welcome the distractions and the obstacles because how we navigate them is kind of a measuring stick as to are you who you really say you are and can you do what you really say you can do.
Wow. So let's stay here for a minute and unpack these challenges a little deeper, because if a man is wrestling with all of these mental stigmas that have been placed on him, expectations that he's not going to do thus and so, and he may or may not have had the role model of another man to show him how to do these things. How does he handle this mental pressure? Is it being in community with other men? Because I mean, honestly, a lot, if I ask a lot of my sisters, they would say their men don't have a whole lot of friends.
That's me. I'm definitely um I'm an introvert extrovert. So I'd rather be by myself, but I do know how to navigate around people. Fortunately, I'm not gonna say unfortunately, I was blessed with a father who raised me to be a man, a young man. He raised me with responsibility, accountability, look a man in the face, firm handshake, be where you're supposed to be, do what you say you're going to do, stand up, speak up, shut up, all of those things. So I think that in one sense of those population of men that have a father that raised them right, then you have a population of men who had fathers that they saw bad examples. Then you have a population of men who were raised by their mother or grandmother, aunt, who weren't even raised with a father figure. I think that at the end of the day, when we become conscious enough as men to make conscious decisions of what we want to do, who we want to be around, I think if it is important enough to you to be a stand-up guy, to be a stand-up man, you will find at least one person. Now, I don't believe in being around a crowd of people.
Mhm.
Um, I tend to think that a lot of times I spoken in the beginning, like a lot of men like to belong, and belonging for the wrong reasons. I think when you're belonging for the right reason, I think you should at least gravitate to one person who can mentor you, who can cover you, who you have seen that they have shown an example through years of walking the right path and making the right decisions and doing the right things. That you should at least have one person that you can gravitate to, that you should be able to pull from, and that they can pour into you to make those gradual steps into being that person that you need to be. For
So
sure.
that's why you started For My Kids.
No, actually, For My Kids was started by my brother, my partner, my friend Jarrell Wilson.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
that was founded. I'm pretty sure if you're from Baltimore, you know about the gentleman. His name was Keon Carpenter. He was a
Uh-huh.
football player from Woodlawn High School. Went on to Virginia Tech, Buffalo Bills, Atlanta Falcons. He was racing his son, fell, hit his head, had a brain aneurysm. Um, Passed away. They were in business with Carpenter House.
Okay.
Um, Unfortunately, once that transition, um, For My Kids was, formed by Jarrell, who worked out at Woodstock. He worked a day job, he worked a night job, he saved his money, he put it into the nonprofit. He is the CEO, founder, and executive director for My Kids. He created
Wonderful.
that because at the end of the day,
Hmm.
and at the beginning of the day, we needed to help the young men. Keon
Hmm.
Carpenter had shut down Academy, which was a football program which mentored the young men on the field and off the field. But what happened was is when Jarrell went back to drop the kids off, it's sort of like, okay, not only is the kid broken, but the home is broken. So
Mm.
now we need to go deeper. We need to help the family. So I was just graced with the opportunity to be able to come here to create systems, to create checks and balances. I think the mentoring aspect and just being able to provide overall, and we'll get into it a little bit deeper, a holistic approach about
Hmm.
community and family and mentoring. So, we provide mentoring, we provide it in school, after school, we provide housing with a partnership from the mayor's office.
Mm.
We provide therapies. We have two clinical partners that we have here on site. We do a food pantry on Fridays from 11 to 1. We go to JCI. We do prison reform to build up the young men and the older men that are coming home. So it's a whole wraparound approach. Like I said, it was an honor and privilege for him to come here and just, I'm the person that challenges systems. So if you don't want me to challenge the system and see if it can be broken or if it's fail proof, scam proof, any type
Hmm.
of proof, I'm the guy that challenges systems because I used to be that person. I used to
Uh-huh.
be that guy. I haven't always been a Kingsman.
Uh-huh. Uh,
And again, like we'll get into that deeper. I think
yeah.
another thing is about just being transparent about who you are, where you come from, who you used to be, to understand that it's okay to make the transition. It's okay to be one way and decide to make the change and make a decision. So that's where we are.
I love it. And I really wish, the cameras are always out in 21217 talking about somebody being shot or how bad the neighborhood is. And there are organizations like For My Kids that have been operating out there empowering our young people and don't get the attention
Yes,
for
yes,
being the positive light in this very same zip code. So this is wonderful. So
awesome. Thank you.
let's continue unpacking the challenges.
Okay.
So physical challenges for our brothers. So for women, there are stereotypes of how we're supposed to look and what beauty is, and those are more so the things that we wrestle with when we say the brothers are facing physical challenges. Does that include competition? Does it include um, living up to the expectation of what, the tall, dark, handsome thing? Or are we strictly just talking about health issues?
I would think it's complex. I think it's made up of different parts. It's not difficult, it's not complicated, but it's definitely complex. I think the number one thing that challenges men is probably not wanting to fail.
Oh,
You'll never really hear that a lot. Men are always, I don't care if you're a Kingsman, whoever's men you are, like you in the back of your head never want to fail. I don't care if it's the marriage, the relationship, the job, um, the request, the the showing up, the presence, um, asking a question, whatever is brought to you. I think being afraid to fail, and not even necessarily being afraid, just never wanting to fail is a daily challenge. I myself have went through. I just went through a vigorous process of just purchasing my first home.
oh,
Something
yeah.
that in my family that's just not something that we do. I was blessed by God to be able to do it. I think the process in which we went through it, it was very difficult. And every night, my wife was like, "So how we looking? So what it look like?" And I talk about a poker face. Um, because another thing is, we never want our kids, our families, our wives, we never want them to feel like it's not under control. And that's
Hmm.
the added pressure that we just put on ourselves because they don't want us to make sure that you let me know that it's under control. Like they don't ask us to do that. That's a pressure that us men we just put on ourselves. Uh,
Mm.
and we do it quite often. I don't ever want my wife to feel or my kids to feel like dad don't have it.
Yeah.
Um, they like to call me Mr. Make It Happen, and they just don't know the vigorous hours of not getting any sleep or stress or prayers or the work that it takes just for you to be able to feel like my dad always going to make it happen. And at the end of the day, I think that's a feeling that us as men, as fathers, we always want to have that feeling. That's one of the most beautifulest feelings in the world to be able to know that my lady, my wife, my kids, they trust me to always know we're going to be okay. But behind the scenes, it was just a lot. That purchase was a
Mm.
lot, asked for a lot, had to do a lot. um, it was a really vigorous task, but I think that the beauty of it again was the obstacles. The beauty of it was for me having the distractions. Um, and I'll admit I tripped over a couple of them obstacles. I fell short a few times, but I got back up. I got back on my horse, and we saw it through to the end. But again, I think just us as men, the physical challenges sometimes is us just putting pressure on ourselves. It's just not even there.
Yeah.
It's we like to kind of put things out there that's it's just not even there. But not being able to provide, not wanting to fail, and the pressure that we put on ourselves, I think that is not necessarily permanent in the forefront of a few physical challenges that we face.
Wow. So I was going to ask when you said that. So then, because nobody is perfect all the time.
For
Like
sure.
nobody hits a home run every time they get up to bat. So when it doesn't go right, what is the mental recovery from that to keep going on? Because I see some people just give up. And the other part to that is, so you said, knowing that your wife, knowing that your children, knowing that your family believes in you. So what can the woman do to help the man be successful after stumbling over the obstacle? Because I know a lot of my sisters are real quick to point out everything that the man is doing wrong.
Mhm. Um, I truly believe what helped me was, and this is something I can't speak for every woman, but I can speak for mine. The lack of panic. It
Mm.
ain't going right. Truly helps the male's mental stay grounded and stable. Like we have obstacles, we go through things. Oh my God, what are we gonna do? So now what? Like, I don't want to hear that. Relax. Just relax. The lack of panicking. and added pressure helps a man get past obstacles and distractions that come when you're trying to obtain a goal or you're trying to, you know, make something happen. I think that in addition to the lack of panic, the reassurance of, babe, I know you got it, we're gonna be okay. A simple statement like that just calms the mental, and
Mm.
it soothes the pressure, it relieves pressure. Um, a couple nights I just laid down and she knew I was praying and she knew I was, you know, doing what I need to do to stay in the moment. And she just rubbed the back of my head and I went to sleep. You know what I mean? It's just it's a difference of we're gonna go through it regardless. But how we go through it in the manner of which our mind and our state of mind is as we go through it, it makes a world of difference
Yeah.
because it can be a struggle or it can be a strength. I think that how we navigated through that process, it turned out to be a strength for us now knowing that facing those type of situations or new obstacles, I think it strengthened us through the process of how we handle going through the obstacles.
That's good. So now let's unpack the spiritual challenge then, because you said you weren't always a Kingsman.
Hmm.
So, and we know that there are more women in church than men. So, what
That is
does that
true.
wrestle look like spiritually for a man, um, who's he might be caught up, might be out there? What does that wrestle look like coming to understand he's a Kingsman and then getting to the place where he goes from being out there to being a mentor, being a leader in church?
Hmm. That's
Because
a good
it's
curve.
not just the women, nagging y'all to come to church.
Well, I'm glad you said that. That was a good curveball, but I'm gonna keep my elbow up high. I'm gonna see if I can swing and hit it. I think before we get to that, I think that we as a church we have a responsibility to preach Jesus. A lot of pastors, because it's highly women populated, they like to preach to the women and they forget that we sitting right next to them. And all
Mm.
them turn to your neighbors. When they look at us, we look the opposite way because we don't want them to talk to us. We have to make sure that as a church, and not you in per se, but I think a lot of churches have struggled with just preaching Jesus.
Mm.
If
Wow.
I'm out in the streets and I'm struggling and I'm straddling the fence, I don't want to come in here and hear them pastors, ladies, if that Negro ain't this and that Negro ain't doing that, get rid of that Negro. I'm struggling with that. That's why I came here. Preach Jesus to me. Don't preach to my lady. Preach to us.
Mhm.
Because there's also some things that you could be saying to her that could be helping me. So I think that us as a church, as a body of Christ, we need to make sure that we preach Jesus. Understanding the women are highly populated and they give a lot in tithe and offering. They keeping the churches open, but it's a lot of the men that's gonna make sure that you don't get robbed after you get that money from them women that you're gonna need in that church to make sure they got their lives together as well. So I think that's a big part. I think will be more on the forefront when we do get those guys in there who are trying to make that transition. The second thing is, and I had this packed for later, but I just think that once you decide that you're going to not straddle a fence and become a Kingsman, I talk about this all the time. It's a difference between making a choice and a decision. Uh,
Mm.
when I was younger, I did a lot of things that I probably wouldn't do different because I think that it was part of the process for where God has me today. But at some point, sitting out at Brockridge, 18 months, knowing that I'm about to have a baby girl, I made a decision. And here's the difference. Choices come with regrets. When you make a choice, it's like, I did, oh man, I wish I wouldn't have choice. I wish I could have. Choices always come with regrets. When you make a decision, you stand on it and it ain't no changing your mind, ain't no going back. A lot of men make choices and they choose to do this today, and then tomorrow they choose to do something else. And us as men, we have to be accountable for that. But when you decide to make a decision, it's final. When you go to court and the judge makes his decision, it's final. He don't make a choice, and he don't give you one either. So I just think that for those men that struggle with that, coming into the spirituality aspect of being a kingsman, you have to make sure that you're making a decision and make sure that it's final and you stand on it.
Wow. So this is why you are so passionate about the mentoring, because these are the conversations that men need to have with young men and probably just with each other.
For sure.
Why,
Sure.
why don't men have these conversations? Because, like I said, women, we converse very intimately about all of our business if we feel we're in a safe company. But why don't men have these honest wellness conversations?
I think honestly, a lot of the conversations are had, I think, for two reasons. Um, the younger, and if you're talking about an age demographics, we can kind of go another way.
Okay.
Because I know it's a lot of men out here that don't want to have conversations with the YNs, as they call them, or the young guys, is because they
Oh.
don't want to listen. They don't want to hear nothing, man. I ain't got time to be wasting, you know what I mean? But you'll be surprised of those young men that are out there that actually are waiting to have a conversation. They're
Mhm.
out here doing the things that they're doing, and they're acting in the way that they're acting. You see what you saw at the AFRAM this weekend. Mayor Brandon Scott, shout out to my Mayor Brandon Scott. He graced us with the opportunity of working down the Inner Harbor for the past 2 summers with summer youth engagement. Um, and for my kids, went down there for the whole summer for 18 weeks, Friday, Saturday, Rashfield, Pratt Street, Fells Point. And what I learned was they're looking for structure, but they're not getting it from men. They're getting it from women. They're getting it from some men who are not fully men, some men who don't always exercise themselves as men, and they don't respect it. I think what we're looking at is we have to have a level of realness with our individual, with our youth, with the mentorship, to let them know, like, man, listen, I used to do the same things you used to do, and probably a lot worse. I used to probably do them smarter than you, because what you're doing is a little bit foolish because there's too many cameras outside. Like, having genuine conversations and walking with them and meeting them at their need. And I sometimes I talk to them the same way they talk to me. I can't speak staunch and give them big words that they don't understand. I think that's a thing that we struggle with as older men, is we don't really want to take the time out with the young boys, is because a lot of us, and not speaking for everybody, but a lot of these men out here, they're afraid of these young boys. um they're afraid to engage. um One of the things that we had to do down there that we were very effective with is being able to engage and redirect. I think that's really prominent in mentoring and male mentorship. Any type of mentorship is being able to redirect. But once you redirect, if you're not re-engaging them, you're just pointing them in another direction to go terrorize somewhere else. So I think that one thing we need to understand is just understanding the barriers that we face with the youth and how to attack it and be able to meet them at their need. Um, Understanding what they need, understanding that they need structure. Also being able to provide a resource for them. Um, Unless it's raining outside, for my kids, there's a car wash that's open right here on Pulaski Street, and it's open every day. We employ those guys. So again, redirecting, but re-engaging them somewhere else. We do street chronicles on Mondays and Wednesdays. We go to the fitness center on Monday to 5 to 7. We put on the gear. We let them put on the boxing glove and punch at us. Take out your frustration on it's. You have to be creative, and you always have to be innovative. And because we keep saying it all the time, these kids today is different. All right, well, we have to be different too. We have to do something different too. So I think that just that part with the youth is something that we need to make sure that we take um, a deeper and better interest in, and being innovative and creative, and finding ways to engage, redirect, and then re-engage them. But as men, I think a lot of times we have to make sure that we're not judgmental. Come on, man, you know you need to be doing this. I don't. I already know what I need to be doing. I know I'm not doing it. I know I'm not able to. I need you to show me and tell me how to get there. What are the steps that I need to take? Let's create a plan. Let's sit down. Let's talk. What are your struggles? What are your strengths? How do we build on that? Um, I get men that come in here all the time. They need housing. They're homeless. I have 3 kids. They bring their kids in here with them. Like, first of all, brother, man, thank you for coming in, man. I appreciate your transparency, because a lot of people, a lot of men that need help won't even come and say that they need help. Being able to identify that you have an issue is something that we as men struggle with. You know, like if you need to go get gas, you got to say, "Oh, I don't got no gas." You only go get food because I know I'm hungry. I'm going to the doctors because something's wrong. But we won't go seek mental help. We won't go see a therapist, because then that makes us hold ourselves accountable. And as we get deep into this conversation, that's a struggle that we as men have as well. So, yeah.
Oops. Does this go back to the fear of being a failure, that men will isolate um, instead of reaching out to connect with somebody who can help them with whatever they're dealing with? The fear of even admitting to themselves that something is going on, because I think we talked about this in a previous conversation. I said, why don't men like to go to the doctor? Why don't they, want to see a therapist? Why don't they, they'll know something might be wrong and wait until, it's chronic before they will go sit with somebody. So why is this?
Before I answer the why, I think we need to address the isolation.
Uh-huh.
Um, to all of my fellas out there and the men out there, understand isolation is so necessary. So many times in the Bible we see stories of uh Daniel in the lion's den, and David and Jonah in the belly of the whale, and um, even Jesus being in the wilderness or being asleep on a boat. There's so many different stories in the Word of God that where a man was isolated. I think the problem is, what do you do when you isolate? Um, how do you handle your isolation? I think that I think being able to assess, well as being able to alignment, is very key. For very important that I think it's very important that even in the midst of that, isolation can be a strength, or it can help to your struggle. Um, knowing when it's time to isolate, because a lot of times we shut down on the people that we shouldn't shut down on. A lot of times we isolate ourselves from people, places, and things. Like a lot of men isolate and shut down and stop coming to church. Um, a lot of men isolate and shut down, and they stop talking to their spouses or stop talking to their girlfriends. They isolate away from their kids. They take time off from work. I think isolation is necessary, but being able to have that quiet time, being able to adjust and assess what's going on, and then realign yourself is very key in that. Now, the why, again, is a lot of times when we know what we're doing or lack thereof, a lot of the times the isolation comes from wanting to have a lack of accountability as well. Um, if I know I'm not where I should be, if I know I'm not operating the manner of which I should be operating, if I'm not producing the way I should, if I'm doing something I don't have no business doing, whatever the case may be, a lot of people isolate themselves. It's a natural thing. I mean, even back from the beginning in Genesis, when Adam ate from the tree he wasn't supposed to, and he know he wasn't, he went, he hid, he isolated himself. I mean, it's in the Word of God, so it's a natural human response to isolate yourself when things are not going the way they should, and or when you don't want to hold yourself accountable as a man. I think men of us, we struggle with accountability. I think accountability is a very, very, very how do I put it? Accountability is a thing that most men run from, but they don't understand how much it builds character. Um, Being able to say, I did it, I was wrong, I handled it wrong, I should have, I could have, I apologize. How do I make it right? What do I need to do? I mean, accountability is something that we as just a black men we struggle with a lot. I think once we learn to master accountability, I think it solves a lot of our mental issues, because when I don't want to hold myself accountable and I have to isolate, and then I'm shying away from people, persons, places, and things. And then what happens is now I'm feeling anxiety when I get around people, because I don't even want to be around people, or I'm so shut down and I want to be around these people, but I don't want to hold myself accountable. So now I'm slightly depressed. Um, and before you know it, your whole world is crashing down, and it's just like, I'm sorry. it some of what we it's kind of like the fly that's in the jar that keeps hitting his head on the jar, and they don't know that the top is off. Like, I'm sorry, I apologize. It's So I
Wow.
think accountability in our black men, and when you talk about just being a kingsman, I think that's just something that we should have on the forefront. I think three things that I would put into being a kingsman. I think integrity is
Yeah.
number one. um Webster has a definition of it, but my definition has always been, who are you when no one's watching?
Right.
What are you doing? How do you operate? How do you walk? How do you talk? Who do you help? How do you help? What is your attitude like? How do you listen?
Yeah.
um when do you respond? How do you respond? Integrity, commitment, and sacrifice, I think, are the three things that will help build a strong kingsman in the body of Christ.
Oh, this is good stuff. So if a person, because it's not just men actually, because that was a good illustration. Adam, where are you? And then he says,
Mhm.
well, the woman dragged me down. And then he goes to Eve, what's up with you? And she says, well, it was the serpent. So we love to pass the buck. At what point does a man say, I've got to grow up? I've got to stop going from job to job, or from woman to woman, or from place to place. That, like, I want to be stable. I want to be a kingsman. I want to start learning who God made me to be, and I may not have had a man to show me how to do it, but I want it. Like that's what we all want to see for our men, for our sons, for everybody. But what is it that prompts this shift to accountability for a man's self?
I'm gonna make it real simple. I, we've been honored to be able to be facilitators to do a cohort out at the men's correctional facility out at Jessup Correctional Facility. We go there on Thursdays from 12 to 2. We teach a cohort of the mental, physical, the spiritual, um, resume building, job readiness, entrepreneurship. And at the beginning of the class, I started with my mental health portion. I said, I want everybody in this room, it's about 53 gentlemen in that room, aging from the range of 65 to 17 years old. Raise your hand if you know yourself. Everybody in the room raises their hand, right? I said, everybody put your hand down, because if you knew yourself, you wouldn't be sitting right here right now,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and I said, everybody in this class made a conscious decision that I need to do something different. I need to be better. I said, and what you did was you aged out. So your
Mm-hmm.
question is, at what point? It's not a number when I say you age out, but at some point you just have to age out of um and I think not being accountable is really a high level of immaturity as a man, as a person. I think When does it happen? Again, it's not a number, but I think at some point you just have to age out to say, okay, you know what? Enough is enough. Let me just turn this thing around. Listen. I mean, me myself, I think aging out and being able to be fully transparent with nobody but yourself. We have to look at how we live, who we affect, the lives that we affect, um, and more importantly, the lives that we are responsible for, our kids, our spouses. Like at some point with aging out, it comes a level of maturity to say, you know what, I have a greater responsibility, and I need to be transparent with myself. Some of the things I've done, some of the choices that I made, I know that if the tables were turned, if it would flip, I wouldn't like how this would go. I wouldn't like how my kids did me, how she treated me, how my homeboys or the job or the church or whoever, whatever it is. Like I have to make a conscious decision to say, like, if the shoe were on the other foot, I know I wouldn't want to feel like this. For me, my level of transparency came probably about honestly, it probably came maybe about 5 years ago.
Hmm.
I just turned 45. Um, Being able to make that decision, making a decision, which we talked about earlier,
Right,
that
right.
being a Kingsman, um, when you make a decision, you stand on it. But understand that we talk about the obstacles and the distractions. I went through quite a few of those. My family went through them. My wife went through it with me. I was even able to be transparent to say I put my wife through a few things that I know that I wasn't necessarily proud of. I think the level of accountability and transparency hit me to the point where I knew that where I was struggling at was only because of what I was putting people through. If that
Mm,
makes sense. Like,
yeah.
why am I struggling over here and I'm head over heels? I'm doing everything I need to do. I'm being where I need to be, working as hard as I need to work. But over here, I'm dealing with certain things with my family and my friends and my wife and my household. And if you want to make God laugh, they say tell him your plans.
Hmm.
If I'm not doing it over here, it shouldn't come from over here. But that's how it was happening. And it's just I think God is truly amazing in how he's, you know what I mean, just me being able to speak about being blessed to purchase my first home. I know
Yeah.
that I know that's only a testament of my level of transparency, my level of accountability, and me making a decision. Those three things is something that I know God said, you know what, I'm going to bless you, son, for you to be able to do this because you've been faithful over a few things. So I'm gonna make you a rule over, man. But until we make that decision, it's going to always be turmoil. It's going to always be obstacles, distractions. And the funny thing is, another thing I teach my guys is when you have good intentions, it's always followed by distraction. Intention by human nature, intention is always followed by distraction.
Wow.
When I get off this Zoom, I'm gonna call my staff and I have good intentions to do it, but something's going to distract me from doing it. It's
Mm,
just it's just the law of human nature. So again, making sure that we stay grounded, making sure we stay transparent, making sure we stay accountable, and be integral about how we approach people, places, and things are some of the traits that we need to exercise as being a king's man.
that's so good. This was all good stuff. We had a bunch of questions, and I think you answered most of it within the answers, and we're almost out of time. But
Okay.
this is where I want to go here now, because we've talked about what needs to happen um, within the man. So, for a man to go from who he's been to getting on the path to being the Kingsman, then I know it's not a 12-step, program to becoming a Kingsman, but there are practical steps once he really makes this decision. I've aged out of who I was, whatever age I am. In my mind, I'm maturing to this other place. Practically, Now what does he do?
Hmm. Well, I don't want to sound redundant, but I spoke about the choice versus the decision.
Uh-huh.
But I'll go even a little bit more deeper in that to answer your question. As we close out, I think that understanding that to make that next step, it really, and I, like I said, I don't want to sound redundant, but it really causes you to make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not making a decision to number one, to choose Christ as your personal savior, to live for Christ, to make sure that the steps of a good man are ordered by God. If you're not making that decision, you're not ready. But I want to leave you with this. They say that when we're born, we look like our mother and father. When we die, we look like the decisions we make. Um, I would employ any man under the sound of my voice that's listening, watching in this broadcast today, that trust yourself to make a decision that I'm going to live for God. It's not going to be great. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be a walk in the park. I do understand that with making decisions um, comes a level of accountability. Again, that we talked about. When you make that decision, it comes with commitment. When you make that decision, it comes with sacrifice. Also, making that decision is a word that we didn't talk about, is a level of discipline. It comes with a high level of discipline.
Discipline. Yeah.
Um, I think one of the things that drive people crazy with me, I spoke about challenging systems. If it ain't a system, if it ain't on a spreadsheet, if it's not structured, count me out. I don't want to be a part of it. And understanding that when you make that decision, me just saying what I just said, I was able to draw lines and draw boundaries, because when we make this decision, we have to understand that we struggle with the mental health, the spirituality, the commitment, the family, the church, the community, and we have to protect our mental from things that we know trigger it. So just in business for me, I sit in meetings with different organizations a lot, and the person with the structure gets my attention. The person who has the spreadsheet and the Excel and the Google Sheets, I'm just like a kid in a candy store. The person that's trying to scrounge some stuff together, I can't focus because I have trained myself once I made that decision to step in as COO. If you look on the screen, I intentionally put the janitor on there. I don't
Uh,
really go off of the title of COO. I just call myself the janitor because I just make sure the building is open and operational. Um, but also the systems are fully functioning with we're in. So I'm cool with the janitor. But be careful how you treat the janitor, because back in the day, the janitor had all the keys and he can get you at any door. Um, but having said that, when you make that decision, you have to make sure that you're going to have a level of integrity, a level of accountability. And again, making that transition again is making that decision to understand that, hey, you were born, you look like your mom and your father, but when you die, you're going to look like the decision that you made or the one that you didn't.
wow.
So,
Wow. That's a powerful, that's like a closing statement right there. But I do want to ask, like, what closing declaration do you want to give to the brothers who are watching? Like, they're like,
um,
I
well,
need this. I'm going to do something. I'm going to get up tomorrow and I'm going to make a change.
hmm, the first thing I would say is just to all the fellas out there, to all the men out there, just ask yourself: are you comfortable in where you are? And where you are right now, do you see yourself there in the next 5 years, the next 3 years, 2 years, next week? Um, and in that level of comfortability, is God in it? Is God pleased within it? Is your wife, your spouse, your friends, your kids, are they pleased with the person you are? Are you pleased with who you are? I think that understanding mental health, understanding the responsibility, the weight that we challenge, the weight that we have as challenges as men, to hold down the fort, to be strong. I challenge all of our men to, even if you are there, make that next step, man. Um, Speak to someone, encourage someone, encourage yourself, speak to a therapist. I talk to mine every other Friday. My wife and I, we go every other Wednesday. Um, If you think you're okay, you're not. If you think you're doing enough, you probably need to do more. And I just think us as men overall, we need to take the stand to make sure that the generation that's coming up behind us won't be a lost generation. I think about yesterday, I was getting out the car when I picked my son up from basketball practice, and Griff shook Bach's hand, and he was like, "Man, I love her. Every time he shake my hand, he just look me in the face, and his little hand be trying to squeeze my hand like his hand bigger than mine. Man, you did him good, man. You raising him right." That made me feel good. It made me feel awesome as a father, as a man. So I just think that it's been said before, like it's easy to build strong men than to repair a broken man. So let's just do our due diligence to ourselves and to others to make sure that we are substantial and we can sustain ourselves, our kids, our families, our homes, our churches, so we can build up and we can take our rightful place where we belong.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. Brother Jamil Boone has
Thank you for
broken
that.
it down for us on tonight. I pray that the brothers have been blessed, have been encouraged, and have been challenged on tonight. We are so excited about what God is doing in his men, and we are determined to affirm our brothers, to support our brothers, and to pour everything we can into them so that you all can be the Kingsmen that God created you to be. And so we got some tidbits even for the ladies tonight on how to help uplift, how to be wives and not knives, how to be, as my friend Apostle Bethia says, wives and not knives, how to be supporters, and to help uplift and not push down. So thank you for your transparency, and we continue to pray God's favor on for my kids, for Noisy Minds, and for all the brothers out there who are doing positive things in the community, who are holding it down for your families, and who are pouring back into our young people. You are the example for this generation, so that they see what a real man of God is supposed to be. So we thank you. We celebrate you. We do want to encourage you. If you did not sow, you can go to Givelify and sow into the ministry of the MBBC. You can go to the website, thembbc.org. You can also text your gift to 443-569-7808. Men's Day is this Sunday coming up, and so we will be in the house at 10 and 12 with Pastor Richard Holland. It's all about the brothers this month, and we are here for every moment of it. Y'all have a wonderful, wonderful remainder of your evening. Celebrate a Black man on today before you go to sleep. Send somebody a text and tell them, I celebrate you, I appreciate you, I bless God for you, I'm praying for you. Send him something positive even on tonight. They are Kingsmen, and we are encouraging them to see and be who God created them to be. We love y'all, and we will see you on Sunday. Good night and God bless.
Awesome. Thank you. Take care.